And I was thinking a lot about church and things in the UCC, in the United Church of Christ, that are unique to us, perhaps. And in the church, we have many words that we use that are unintentionally insider talk. And we don't do it on purpose. But these words and phrases often make it harder for new people to find a place in our pews and in our lives of congregation, tradition, faith, and religion. So here are just a couple that came to mind that make little or no logical sense if you didn't grow up or spend some time in a mainline congregation. And these may or may not apply to Woodmont, but they may to other places. Narthex. Another word for the church lobby or breezeway. Do you use this word at Woodmont?
Oh, yeah.
To an outsider, I want to let you know, Narthex sounds like a planet from Star Wars. Narthex. May the force of Narthex be with thee, you. Sexton. Another word for the church maintenance team or janitorial staff. To an outsider, it sounds like something that probably shouldn't happen at church at all. Sexton. Just being honest. Open and affirming, a UCC word for being LGBTQ inclusive and aware. When left unexplained to an outsider, it sounds like a form of chiropractor. Open and affirming. We need to explain it, not just say it. Moderator. Another word for the church council president or first select person or first burgess, as you might call it in Woodmont. To the outsider, however, it sounds like a car or airplane part, something made at Sikorsky in Stratford. How's your moderator doing on that truck or helicopter today? Lay people. A church word for everyone in the congregation who is not a minister. It sounds, however, to people who are not part of our talk, like someone who takes things laying down or is sleeping parallel to the floor. Lay people or persons. Ordination. A church word for people in the church who are named as vocationally assigned to the role of minister or community leader. To the outsider, however, it sounds like the process of ordering something from Amazon, eBay, or for some of you, Sears and Montgomery Ward. Montgomery Ward, anyone? Years ago. Faith. To the outsider, it's just Faith Hill's first name. It also sounds like a word that Christians use to spar with one another, to talk about other people as if they measure up to some standard. Did he or she have enough faith? That happened to them because their faith wasn't strong enough. If only they had faith. Can your faith move mountains or even a molehill? Faith sounds in popular culture like a term of judgment, a measure, or even a cosmic transaction. Even to Christians, we forget what this word really means. We use it often just as a synonym for religion or belief or our courage. I have faith in you. Faith has been distorted by our enculturation and modern capitalism to mean spiritual creditworthiness with God, rather than something deeper, mysterious, personal, and truly undefinable when viewed in competition with others. We have made this beautiful gift of the soul from the divine heart of the Creator into a mere word measuring something tangible and comparable between people: the faithful, the unfaithful, the faithless, and the very faithful. Faith has come to mean a divine credit card or credit score. Is your faith score over 700 today? If so, you qualify for one wish from God. Sounds a little bit like the narrative we have about this word. If you Google the word faith, and that's what kind of gives us a good understanding of where popular culture and narrative, and maybe even our own subconscious understanding is about a word, here's what comes up. How does your faith measure up? Is your faith mountain moving? How to have better faith in 10 easy steps. Entry after entry of commercialized, Cartesian, meaning plotted out, unitized, measurable, for something that really shouldn't be measured or compared or defined. We have collectively or subconsciously made faith into a competition or a commercialized product sold by the church, very lucrative over the centuries, I'll have you know, rather than something deeply personal, sustaining, and meaningful. It is a word. Faith is a word today in modern American Christianity that makes more people shudder with worry about their adequacy rather than breathe deeply with assurance of their lovedness by God. I know I made up a word. It's okay. I have a stool. They let me make up words. No. And it isn't just non-church people who get this definition confused, like sexton or narthex, moderator. It's the church itself that has lost the uniqueness of this word and meaning of faith. So then, what should faith mean if it doesn't mean these other creditworthiness kind of ideas? If it isn't a competition of holiness, what is faith? So let's turn to this very interesting scripture passage from the Epistle to the Hebrews. The very Reverend Cynthia Briggs Kitteridge, can you guess her tradition? Is an Episcopal professor and scholar of the Epistle of Hebrews. She's also actually the editor of the Hebrews portion of the Oxford University version of the NRSV Bible, the one we mostly use in the UCC. In her study of Hebrews, which is arguably the most eloquently written, if you look at the Greek itself section of the Christian Scriptures or Greek New Testament, she writes this about our particular section this morning. Traditionally known as the Epistle or letter to the Hebrews, this writing is better understood as an anonymous sermon written to encourage early Christian community to continued faith and faith in the face of hardship, troubled waters. Despite the title, To the Hebrews, the audience consists of people both of Jewish and Gentile backgrounds, a diverse audience. Evidence within the sermon for the identity of its audience suggests that the community had suffered hardship and persecution. Hebrews is a document in which themes and motifs anticipate and reinforce each other. Nothing here is accidental. And the sermon, the whole book, is divided into 4 definable sections. The third part, chapter 10, verses 32 through chapter 12, verses 29, describes faith, and this is the important part, as an insight into a heavenly reality and world. Faith, according to our portion, our reading today from Hebrews, from section 3, is defined as a deep insight into a heavenly world of reality. The word insight comes from an ancient Scandinavian word that made its way to us through early and Middle English. It means seeing without your eyes. It means wisdom revealed from within. Insight. Seeing without your eyes into a heavenly world of reality. That's faith. Faith is intuitive wisdom in connection to God and the realm of heaven from the heart. It is the feeling of connection, almost as palpable as tangible skin, to the presence of a deceased loved one in your memory. Faith is the insight in the sense of God's presence and purpose in community, even in disagreement and debate. Faith is the daily glimpses of God in the child, the elder, the stranger, and maybe even the newly discovered skills of a spouse after many years. Faith is wisdom vision that tells us deeply on a subconscious level that we are not alone and that life doesn't end in some form at death. Faith is that wisdom vision that gives us assurance of God's presence and love in our lives. Faith is the wisdom vision that brings us back Sunday after Sunday, year after year, to church community, even if it hurts sometimes. Faith is the insight into a heavenly world of reality beyond credit and figures, rules and comparisons. Our passage today occurs in the middle of section 3, according to scholars. By faith, the people passed through the Red Sea as if it were dry land. But when the Egyptians attempted to do so, they were drowned. By faith, the walls of Jericho fell after they had been encircled for 7 days. By faith, Rahab the prostitute did not perish with those who were disobedient, because she had received the spies in peace. Do you all know some of these stories? They're all in the Bible, by the way. It's that book. It should be around in the pew somewhere. And then the author says this, interrupts herself and says, and what more should I say? And what more should I say? I love an interjection of a question in the text, right? For time would fail me to tell of Gideon and Barak and Samson and Jephthah and David and Samuel and the prophets, who through faith conquered kingdoms, administered justice, obtained promises, shut the mouth of lions, quenched raging fires, escaped the edge of the sword, won strength out of weakness. Paradox. Became mighty in war, put foreign enemies to fight. And what more should I say? There would not be enough time in my life, says the author, says the sermon writer, to tell of all the power and promise of faith. Literally, I could talk my whole life long and not even begin to tell you of the variety of faith, right? The possibilities, the patterns, the permutations of faith. The preacher of Hebrews tells us are endless. Are y'all with me? Faith is not measurable like sand or money or power. There is no 10-step procedure for acquisition. Sorry to tell Google something new. It is, however, a practice that we can curate together in congregation. The practice is let yourself feel again with openness and wonder. Look out the window of your mind with the intention, with set aside time to look for new insights into a heavenly realm of reality beyond your normal vision. There was a great American rabbi named Rabbi Heschel, and he called it Sabbath in his mind, and he called this set aside times for looking for God architectures in time, meaning setting aside designed time in your week to look for these insights and glimmers of God. One person's faith is, by its very definition, and this is very countercultural, not possible to be compared to another person's. It isn't a walnut and a mustard seed being compared side by side. One person's faith is not compared with another, for two people in all of history have never shared the exact same faith, according to Hebrews. That is to say, the exact same insight into the endlessly beautiful, and sometimes scary, by the way, reality in the realm beyond our own physical existence. Heavenly worlds of reality beyond our wisdom. Your faith, each of your faiths, is so beautiful. It is so precious. When you speak of your own faith, hear yourself. Listen closely to what you say. So here's a take-home homework assignment. I always like to give you something to do. You don't have to, but it's just a suggestion. So go home and take some time and say, I have faith that, or my faith says. And just open yourself to what you say or write or journal or paint or what you plant in your garden in response to my faith says, and then let your mind and spirit go. You'll notice the results are very different if you do the same practice and say, I believe that. Right? Belief and faith are very different. Faith is that openness to what's possible beyond the realm of understanding. So Simon and Garfunkel were likely amongst those people in our world who may not have known what a narthex or a sexton were. But I do think that they understood the concept of faith. This helps us understand that faith in this big, expansive understanding of Hebrews is not a concept limited to those who are in church. Especially in the song, Bridge Over Troubled Waters, I think they got to something deeper. This song was sung most famously by Garfunkel, but it was written by Paul Simon. And the story goes that Paul Simon had been listening to a lot of American gospel music, and then one day this song just came to him. This idea of people and God by faith supporting each other in challenging times. There are articles of him being quoted saying, after he wrote it, he read it and listened to it and said, this doesn't even sound like me. Where did this come from, right? Openness to a divine sense of God's presence. It doesn't sound like any of their other music, by the way, as a genre. He wrote it quickly, with inspiration and a sense of that bigger picture. Not second-guessing ourselves in faith is also an important part of that discovery process. What resulted is a song that is about the true meaning of faith, I believe, insights into a heavenly world of reality. When you're weary, feeling small, when tears are in your eyes, I'll dry them all. I'm on your side when times get rough and friends just can't be found. Like a bridge over troubled waters, I will lay me down. Like a bridge over troubled waters, I will lay me down. When you're down and out, when you're on the street, when evening falls so hard, I will comfort you. I will take your part. But when darkness comes and pain is all around, like a bridge over troubled waters, I will lay me down. Like a bridge over troubled waters, I will lay me down. Can you hear the glimpses of God emerging in these words? And remember, Paul Simon wasn't particularly religious, but here still is faith coming from his heart. Our God is not silent or hard to find or inaccessible as people would like you to think, or accessed only by a certain brand of Christianity. Faith allows all of us, no matter if we know what a narthex is or not, to access the sacred sense of God's presence. So then why church? Right? A church's job, our main function, is to be cheerleaders for one another, to help us remember that this work of living in faith and kindness is our main purpose. This work of looking for deeper meaning and God's presence in one another is our main purpose as humans. Everyone has access to faith. It isn't owned by any denomination or religion. But at our very best, congregations make it our job to support and encourage this depth of faithful living, week by week, year after year, in a way that popular culture understandings of meaning-making don't do. We just hopefully encourage each other to focus on this in the midst of worlds that want us to focus on other parts of living. More than political power, being right, gathering stuff into houses for the next generation's estate sales. A little too true. More than all of that, our biggest and best is when we live into the faith of the anonymous sermon to the Hebrews. Faith as a deep and unique insight, a vision, into the meaning and existence and relationship beyond and before, within and all around us, with creation, life, and the divine spark of it all. Like a bridge over troubled waters, I will lay me down. Like a bridge over troubled waters, I will lay me down.